Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Warrior FastBreak here on HBC TV 25. I'm Justin Barrientos. Thank you for joining us here today. And we'll start off things by talking men's basketball with head coach Todd Eisner. And Coach Eisner, thanks for joining us again this season. It's good to see you again.
Always good to be here, Justin.
All right, let's talk about your team. Since this is the first time that we've seen you, even though you've got 6 games under your belt, let's talk in general first. You lost 6 players off of your roster from last year, but you could kind of afford that because you returned 10 because of the COVID situation. You know, everybody got extended years and you're able to expand your roster a little bit. But I think because of the players that you lost from last season, that kind of reflected itself in the preseason coaches poll, which, you know, this year, I don't know if you can even trust what that says, but your reaction to where Winona State was chosen in the poll, if that is a motivator for you or if that's even something that you pay attention to.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't pay a lot of attention to the good years or the years where it looks like we may not be as successful as whatever the coaches in the league think. So, I think it was based off of, obviously, we lost a couple important pieces from our starting group last year, and Northern State lost a bunch. We lost a bunch in terms of scoring, at least, and guys that had a positive impact on our program. And anytime you lose somebody like Kevion and Andrea, that's certainly going to take a bite out of what you've done over the past couple of years. And so I think you're right. I think that preseason ranking was a reflection on that. But more so, Justin, I think, other than, like I mentioned, us in Northern, I think almost every other team in the league brought everybody back. There were very few defections or very few players that had a chance to play another year that didn't take advantage of it. And obviously, both Kevion and Andrea are both playing. I mean, Kevion had an opportunity to play Division I and is starting at Valparaiso right now, playing about 30 minutes a game. And Andrea is playing professionally back home in Italy. So it wasn't like they decided they just didn't want to play another year. They just had opportunities to do something else and certainly appreciated the time that they were with us.
All right, let's talk about you returned 10 players to this year's squad, and so far they are contributing as well as some of the newcomers that you had. What do you feel the strengths of your team are this year, and how do you need to use those strengths in order to get wins this year?
Well, I like, the returning players. Their approach has been really, really good all year, and that starts with Dev. And, Dev did decide to come back, thankfully for us, and play that extra COVID year. So he's in his 5th year for us, and that gives us a lot of comfort as a coaching staff and as a program, knowing that the ball's in his hands and that, typically good things really happen for us offensively. And he kind of spearheads everything we do on the defensive end of the floor in terms of just his toughness and his energy and his talk. So Dev coming back, and then, we've got Owen back too, who's in his 2nd year in our program, and Luke Martins, who had a tremendous shortened year last year in a new role starting at the 3. And we've actually moved him back to kind of into Kevion's role, and he's doing a great job there. So we've got 3 starters back. And then we obviously added Al Rosner back into the mix after missing basically the entire year last year with the knee injury. So we've got 4 really good experienced pieces that we put together, and then we've added a few young people that saw a little bit of action last year in Connor Dillon, who's currently hurt right now, and then our 2 freshmen big men are really doing a nice job for us, considering they've never played college basketball before, in Connor Drew and Drew Adams. So we've got a nice mix of guys. They're working really hard. They're competing really hard in the games that we've played so far, and been really pleased with their toughness level. And as long as we continue to have the approach that we want to fight for everything that we want, I'll go to bat with all of these guys every day.
I want to talk about those 2 new big guys that you just referenced, because, in the past we've talked about Winona State not having that true post presence over the last couple of years, and maybe looking to establish that again. And those 2 guys in the first couple games that I saw at McCowan Gymnasium seem to be filling that gap pretty well. Of course, they can both step back and hit the 3, just like a Tommy Getke or an Andrea Lobiando did in the past. Do you feel like they are going to develop into true post players as their seasons move on?
Yeah, we're really excited about both of them. They've both had just an excellent approach in terms of their attitude, in terms of their effort on a daily basis. They're certainly getting indoctrinated to Division II basketball at times, and that's going to happen throughout the year. But they're willing learners, they're willing workers. They're both, bring kind of a similar skill set and yet a different skill set, which we've been able to mix and match so far through these 6 games. And it just gives us a good thought for currently as they continue to grow, but also where we can be over the next few years as they continue to get better and better each year. So, we're real excited about both of them, where they're currently at. And we're really excited about where they're going to be able to go here in the future. So, it's been a good fit for us both in our direction and also for their direction, hopefully.
All right. I want to swing back and talk about a couple of players that you also talked about. One being Luke Martins, who's currently leading the team in rebounds. Is that a surprise to you at the 3, or even in Kevion Taylor's old position that he's leading the team in rebounds? Because he's doing a lot of great things for your team this year.
Yeah, you better lead us in rebounding because we certainly have done a nice job on the glass so far. I mean, we're not the biggest team. I don't know if we're the strongest team. I don't think we're the most athletic team, but Luke's a fighter. He's got great toughness. He comes to work every day, and he takes great pride in outworking and being tougher than the team we play against. So he's done a wonderful job through 6 games. And like I said, we've moved him. He was kind of Kevion. He was kind of like do it all for us the first couple of years. And then last year, we moved him to the 3 when Al got hurt. And you can put Luke wherever you need to put him other than probably point guard, and he'd be just fine. But the work he's doing at that spot has been tremendous. But he's got to help us on the glass. Our 2 freshmen are doing a nice job. They've got to be better on the glass. But Luke's going to have to spearhead us there. And so far to date, he's done a really nice job of that.
All right. And then you mentioned Alec Rosner coming off of injury, just having an incredible start to this season. Talk about his play and how thankful you are to have him kind of at full strength as the season starts.
Yeah, I really think, Alec's going to be, one of the better 2-way players in our league if he keeps doing what he's been doing. Now, what Al and us are going to have to be aware of is, as he's had such a tremendous start, he's going to become a marked man in our league. And teams are going to do what they did to Kevion last year, which is, we're not going to let Alec Rosner beat us. It's going to make somebody else beat us, and they're just going to make his day really difficult and challenging to touch the ball. And I thought actually Henderson State tried to do that on day 2 down in Kansas City, and thought Alec handled it really well. He didn't force a lot of action, let the game come to him. He didn't shoot it as much knowing he was guarded. And that's a sign of a mature, intelligent basketball player. And that, if teams want to take somebody away, then he's got to trust that his teammates can also be successful while they focus so much on what he's doing well. But it's great to have him back. He did a great job of rehabbing the knee and chose not to have the surgery, but has done a good job and looks normal to us, and keep our fingers crossed that he stays normal. And the other part that, we really utilized him 2 years ago, and he's got to continue to do that. He's done it so far, is we're going to put him on the other team's best perimeter player, at least best wing. I don't know about point guard. And he does a really good job of, making possessions difficult on the defensive end. So like I said, I really think if he keeps growing in his role, he'll be one of the better 2-way players in our conference.
All right. We got about 5 minutes left in this segment, but I want to touch on a couple of different things. First, you talked about the Kansas City trip where you took on Henderson and also Pittsburgh. Just briefly, how do you feel you came away from that trip?
Yeah, it was great. Like I said, I've been really pleased with our guys' effort. And we started out the season down in Kansas City, and our fight and our defensive connectedness was really, really good. Both games, we got out to big leads at the half. And that gave us, I think, some confidence, but also allowed us some cushion when both teams made a little run at us in the second half. And was really pleased with the way we started the season down in Kansas City. And I think that's really carried over. I thought we had a good second half against Viterbo at home when we got back into town. And then this past weekend, we really played 70 minutes of really, really good basketball. Unfortunately, Moorhead's very, very talented in that last 10 minutes. They took advantage of us wearing down a little bit. Our depth is not great right now in terms of, especially with Connor being out, and he's going to be out a little while with that ankle sprain. But But our guys are fighting. I can't complain at all. I'm really pleased with just their approach. But we've got to humbly understand that that's got to be who we are. And the second we go back to just kind of playing average without an intensity level and a focus level, then a lot of bad things can happen to us. And so far through 6 games, they've been tremendous and just putting themselves out there and seeing what happens. And so far, some good things have happened for us.
All right, you mentioned Moorhead, and I want to just ask, one thing about the Thanksgiving Classic that was in Moorhead, and that was kind of your bounce back game against Mary. You won that one by 16 points. Tell us a little bit about how you were able to bounce back after a disappointing loss to Moorhead.
Yeah, it's one of the things we talked about in the locker room right after the Moorhead game is I thought our effort was tremendous and we got worn down and they shot 60% in the second half and made some threes. And so what I really did, I said, hey, it's a quick turnaround. We got to be back here tomorrow. And everybody's got to continue to have the same approach, same attitude. I need just a little bit more from every one of you. And I thought our approach was great. They've got a transfer point guard who's a big point guard. He's 6'3", 210 pounds. But he's a very good player. And, even though he was very efficient, we limited his touches in terms of his easy looks and really took everybody else away. And it was very similar to the Kansas City tournament. That we had such a big lead at half that just gave us a cushion in the second half. Offensively, for the most part, we were really good. Defensively, we let up a little bit in the second half. But I really loved our approach, our attitude, our toughness, our effort. Like I said, our connectedness was really good the entire weekend. And now we get to roll into the NSIC games with the same approach.
All right. You played Upper Iowa, but you really kind of start the bulk of the season now on the road on Thursday against Concordia and then home on Saturday against Minnesota State. What do you feel you need to do this week to get 2 wins?
Well, I think a lot of the same. Concordia St. Paul played out in Colorado this past weekend, so they had to travel yesterday, and they've played teams tough for the most part, at least half or 3/4 of the game, but they're struggling. They won their first game. They've lost 6 in a row. So I think if we can come out and really establish how the game's going to be played from a energy standpoint, a defensive standpoint, that will be to our benefit. We've got to continue to clean some things up on the offensive end in terms of turnovers and just shot selection, but it'd be important to get the first one. Right now, we're not worried about Saturday at all, just because Saturday doesn't matter if we don't get Thursday. And so we're focused right now on CSP and try to get a road win in the league, which is always tough to do, and then get here. And they got a really good Mankato team. They're playing really, really well, and we'll have to be at our best on Saturday to get a W at home on Saturday.
All right, sounds good. Thank you again for the time, and good luck this week against those 2 opponents. And I will mention that the game on Saturday is a game you can catch here on HBC TV 25, a 1:30 start against Minnesota State Mankato. Coach Todd Eisner, thank you very much.
Appreciate it, Justin. Good to see you.
All right, good to see you. We're going to take a break here on Warrior Fast Break, and when we come back, we'll talk women's basketball with head coach Scott Ballard right after this.
Meet Jenny Siseski of Edina Realty. With nearly 30 years' experience, she knows that right now is the best time to sell your home. Jenny will help you get top dollar, higher than ever before. With today's low interest rates, it's time to upgrade your home and increase its value. High demand and low inventory also make this a perfect time to list your home. Call for a free market analysis. Contact Jenny Siseski at Edina Realty today, 507-458-7038.
The days of classic pro wrestling, you can relive them right here with Classic All-Star Wrestling, featuring wrestling from the 50s to the 90s, the 4 top decades in the history of professional wrestling, from Gorgeous George to New Jack. It's all right here. Classic All-Star Wrestling. Fans, you're not going to want to miss it. Terry Funk, Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Jerry the King Lawler, and more.
Welcome back to Warrior Fast Break here on HBC TV 25. We're brought to you by Russell and Associates. Time now to check in with the women's basketball team and head coach Scott Ballard and find out what's happening with the Warrior women's basketball team.
We've got good team speed. We've not shot the ball well from the perimeter in the regular season games yet. When we do, it'll make some things a lot easier. But we've played a tough schedule. Counting the 2 exhibition games, we've had 7 road games in a row. We've had 2 long trips, one to Quincy, Illinois, a week ago, and played McKendree and Quincy. And then, of course, Tuesday, this past week, we started conference play at Upper Iowa, who's much improved. Another road game. And then this past weekend, we, over Thanksgiving, long trip to Topeka, Kansas, and played a couple MIAA teams that are really good competition. So we've learned a lot about ourselves. We played 5 games in the last 9 days, so we've not had much practice time because we've been prepping for 5 opponents in 9 days. And actually it's 8 days because one of those 9 days we had to take off on Sunday. So it's been a tough stretch, and it doesn't get any easier, but it does get spread out a little bit. So this week we play at Concordia on Thursday, and then we have our first home game of the season on Saturday against Mankato. Both of them are really good opponents and talented. Mankato is the only remaining undefeated team in the entire league through 5 games. Both those teams are picked above us in the preseason poll. So, we played both of them a couple times last year in the shortened COVID season, split with both of them. So we've got a big challenge ahead of us, but these past 5 games have presented adversity in the form of foul trouble, being on the road, not having much prep time. So it's been good. We weathered the storm in pretty good shape. We're disappointed, and it stings a little bit that we didn't win on Saturday against Northwest, which you got to give them credit. They handled our pressure defense really well the first half, and we had all kinds of foul trouble. 3 guards were in foul trouble in the first half. We're waiting for our bench, which consists of a lot of younger people, to evolve and get better defensively. And another thing was challenging through our first 5 games, that for whatever reason, we've not gotten to the free throw line very much. And we've not shot well from 3-point land, and we've not got into transition very often. So the majority of our points have been scored in the half court, and we're shooting. Now, we shot 60% on Saturday in a game that we lost because we got outscored 13-4 to free throw line, despite going inside with the ball almost every possession. For whatever reason, we didn't get to shoot very many free throws. But we're shooting nearly 80% from the line when we get there. We just have to get there more often. But typical early season stuff. We've made lots of mistakes defensively at times, but we've made good adjustments at halftime. And now that we're getting to have 4 days of practice each week, I think that could help us a lot. We've grown a lot and learned a lot through the last 10 days with the experiences that we've had, and hopefully it'll start to show up this week.
The way that you're talking, though, it doesn't sound like it matches your record, because you're 4-1. You had a pretty good start to the season.
Well, we've got a lot of room for improvement. We've done a lot of things well, but the last 3 games we've gotten off to a slow start and had to overcome, a double-digit deficit the second half. And it's nice to know that you are capable of doing that, but it's a dangerous formula, especially when you're on the road. But It's a process. And last year was such a sporadic, chaotic, inconsistent experience that it feels good now that we can play full schedule, that we can have fans, that we don't have to wear a mask when we play. We actually, sounds elementary, but it was a big deal to be able to sit down with the team and have a pregame meal. We couldn't do that a year ago. Everything had to be delivery only or curbside pickup. And so it's been refreshing to have a little bit more sense of normalcy with, activities like that.
And let me ask you about kind of the makeup of this team, because you did lose a couple of players from last year's squad, but you returned a lot of really good pieces, and Taylor Hustad and Emma Fee and Emily Keek, and then you added Lauren Fetch.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about how that came about? Because she didn't play at all last season, but
Right.
played the previous 3 years at Minnesota State Moorhead.
Yeah, she was at Moorhead, and she opted out of the season last year with the COVID situation before ever finding out that the NCAA was going to grant everyone another year of eligibility. So she knew she's a graduate student, so she graduated last year, but still had a year of eligibility remaining. And we recruited her some out of high school, and we actually ended up taking Emily Keek. We got an early commitment from her. They're the same age, same class. So it's ironic that we end up with Lauren, 4 years later, and her and Emily get to play together. But I mean, she's dynamic defensively. She's a taller guard. She's versatile. She can play the 1, 2, and the 3. She's a high energy kid. I mean, she can play a lot of minutes. She's relentless. It rubs off on other people and helps them amp up their defensive energy. She's a versatile player offensively, and just improves the defensive side of things for us tremendously. And then, because of her defensive skill set, it allows us a little more depth to be able to extend our defense and press more and get in transition more. So she's been a tremendous blessing to us in the early going here.
All right. Thinking about the team in general, what are some of the strengths that are with this team, and what are some of the things that you're going to need to do to be successful during the NSIC part of the schedule?
Well, I think our defense is a strength, even though we've had a couple halves of basketball that we had some breakdowns. Some of it is communication. Some of it was just being exposed to a certain offensive scheme that we hadn't had opportunities to rep. So those things are easy to fix. You always start with effort and communication, and then the rest of it is execution. So I think our defense, right now through 5 games, opponents are only shooting like 35% against us from the field. Mankato is turning people over 26 times a game. We are turning the ball over 10 times a game. So that'll be a matchup of contrasting styles of play and see whose will is imposed on the other opponent. But honestly, even though we've not shown it, we showed it in our 2 exhibition games. I mean, I think we hit 15 threes, and we're only shooting like 26% through our first 5 regular season games, and we're better than that. But it's nice to know that we're capable of winning some games, even if we're not shooting the ball well from the perimeter, because we're taking care of the ball. We have a good inside game, I think this team can be a better rebounding team than what we've been the last 2 or 3 years. I think the balance and the depth and the leadership and the intensity, I think we have a good mix of things that could evolve into something exciting.
All right. You're back on the road again to start out this week on Thursday at Concordia. And then, as you said, it's going to be a home game against Minnesota State Mankato. And the first times of the season that you'll have double headers with the men, which is something that didn't happen, last year. Again, you're home and they're on the road, and now we're back into double headers. What's that going to be like to get back into that again?
Oh, it'll feel good. The last 2 weekends we have played Friday, Saturday, and both Saturday games we played the second game. So we've already kind of got a little bit of experience about playing the second game of a doubleheader instead of the first game, as in the past. So that helps you prepare with regards to pregame meals and logistics and things of that nature, pregame warm-up, things like that. We already kind of have a routine for that. My main concern with both games this week is the opponent. It's not logistics. It's not anything with regards to routine. It's the quality of each opponent. So they both they both are challenging in different ways, but they're good at what they do. And we just have to continue to get better from one week to the next and try to put the best version of ourselves out there.
Okay. Last question then, kind of out of time here, but when people come to see the team on Saturday, is this going to be your usual Winona State team? Is there anything that fans might be surprised when they see this team on the court this year?
Well, I think they'll be impressed and excited about the energy level and the intensity with our effort on defense, and how fast we try to play on offense. And of course, Mankato, that's how they play. So it could be a real track meet, up and down the floor, high possession game, fast paced. People enjoy watching that. I'm getting used to it. But I just want the ball to go in the basket more often for our group and see if we can be more consistent, for 40 minutes.
All right. Well, I appreciate the time, and good luck with the games this week, Coach.
You bet. We'll look forward to it. Thank you. I hope everyone and your family and our viewers had a good Thanksgiving holiday.
And thank you for joining us here on Warrior FastBreak on HBC TV 25. We'll see you next week.